Siona God, hello all. Good afternoon, Wado. Thank you for watching. This is day 15 of reading Lone Wolf Alpha Squad Copy Over by James Rink. And we are working through his story. He also said that he regretted using the HET to program lies into the minds of children in order to control them. Then his face filled with regret, and he said, "I am also so sorry that I'm going to have to send you back into the situation we have placed you in 30 years ago before you were abducted. And I want you to know that it is not your fault." I said, not understanding a thing he was talking about. "Okay." His face then went back to the original stern expression that greeted me and pushed a button on his console, and I was rendered unconscious. After being in a coma on the HET for 3 weeks and regressed back to 8 years old, I was transported back in time 30 years to Earth, teleported in my original 8-year-old body back onto the toilet seat where they had taken me seconds before. Dr. Gabel, Gabel, programmed me to forget the last 30 years of experiences, but to consciously remember birth till that day, but not to consciously remember the rape. He actually programmed it into my subconscious in order to drastically reduce my self-esteem and create a great deal of guilt. He also interconnected remembering of the rape and any memories of the past. It says past, but it's supposed to be past 30 years with an intense feeling of guilt. What they did to me was absolutely insidious. These evil men took away my childhood innocence and my opportunity to become a doctor of physics and change the world. As I am writing this, I am feeling a great deal of anxiety, which is normal programmed response that was programmed into me in 1993 before they put me back. Again, the question is, why rape me before taking me? They had to shred my self-esteem so they could keep me from becoming anyone of significance. With the use of AI technology, they are able to predict the life path a person will take in life. Knowing this, they programmed the poor, unsuspecting man to rape me. My belief is that if they had not had me raped, had not taken me, gave me bad knees and bad eyes, my life would have been very different. I also believe that they did not like the effect I would have on the timeline they wanted, so they modified me to prevent me from developing my full abilities and take the world down a different timeline than they wanted. I don't care if anyone believes a word I say, because like many of us MyLab children, such as Corey Good, Coreygoode, and we have no physical evidence except through regression therapy. These memories are as clear to me as when I went to a professional Major League Baseball park for the first time with my dad. And I can remember the smell of the popcorn, hot dogs, and the freshly cut manicured field. It is important that you understand all these things did happen to me as they did to thousands of other MyLab children. And then it signs off as Super Tech/DSF. Chapter 5, Project Ubermensch. Ubermensch. In the 1930s, Hitler sent his scientists all over the Far East to document psychic abilities. It was the activation of these traits that was the original dream of Hitler, the creation of a godlike human to rule the masses. This project was known as Project Ubermensch, and project is spelled Projekt, which is German for Project Superman. Sometimes it is referred to as the Alien Psychic Mind Control Program, or more simply, the program. The ideal of a superhuman is not a new concept, and Friedrich Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Zarathustra, taught that, it says that mankind can evolve above its ape-like status using their own self-mastery and willpower to become a race of godlike superhuman, or Zarathustra. This idea became deeply rooted into the Third Reich's philosophical views, who believed they could weed out undesirables from the population through proper breeding and sterilization under a Nazi eugenicist regime. These Nazis focused their research into 2 main areas of study: the power of the vril, VRIL, which could be used for anti-gravity and time travel, and the creation of a genetically engineered Superman. The word vril is based on the Sumerian word VRI dash, is that, I don't know, 2? Roman numeral 2? I don't know. Which means like God. If one, maybe it's VRI-LL. If one could harness the power of vril, they could use their godlike powers to rule the masses. Around the 1920s, members from the Vril and Black Sun Secret Society began channeling information from Nordic extraterrestrial races. Their advanced technologies and racial ideas had entrenched themselves in Nazi philosophy. The Nazis' advanced technology could have won World War II, but because the U.S. had such an enormous industrial base, the U.S. was able to simply outproduce the Nazi war apparatus. Übermensch. As you can see, there are multiple programs, often running in conjunction with each other to create the most elite staff members they could find. After World War II, Nazi Project Paperclip scientists worked under Project Übermensch to create not just one Superman, but an elite army of them who would function as sleeper agents until the Great Rebellion of the Black Awakening, ushering in a Fourth Reich. It was Joseph Mengele's experimentation of torture in the Nazi concentration camps that led to many interesting findings, such as the ability to dissociate and not feel any pain, and the creation of alters, which would create Manchurian candidates, programmed to kill, leaving no memory of what they had just done. This research ultimately led to the creation of a super soldier. Robotic in many ways, they were without conscience. They would fight but not think. The perfect killing machine. After World War II, this top secret programming continued in secret at Brookhaven National Laboratories, the National Ordnance Laboratories, Defense Advanced Research Products Agency, and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. Whoa. Which was then covertly transferred under Department of Defense and NSA control and planning. Sadly, the cabal views these experiments as property of the NSA, and very little recourse is available for survivors as any evidence of wrongdoing is protected under National Security Act of 1947. That's ridiculous. Project Talent. Once the Nazis had entrenched themselves within the United States shadow government under Project Paperclip, they created a recruiting arm to find ideal subjects for Project MK-Ultra. Remember, this was the original 1960s CIA umbrella project of 150 sub-projects involved in the study of controlling the human consciousness. Originally, experimentation was limited to military personnel only, but it soon became obvious that the U.S. population contained a much larger recruiting pool of suitable subjects for experimentation. So, Project Talent was initiated, which allowed the intelligence agencies to covertly locate ideal candidates, especially starseeds, for potential Ultra programming, MARK. School testing, blood databases, as well as media reports of children with amazing gifts were closely looked into. Subjects were chosen based on their IQ, psychic ability, and genetic predisposition for dissociation. Psychics were sought after because they are naturally good at dissociation and thus easier to program and control. These individuals were most often found in families who suffered from intergenerational ritualistic abuse. Remember, this process involves going into the mind and finding their worst fears to be used against them. They would use various stages of torture and horror, including electric shock, needles under the fingernails, drugs, and waterboarding, which would tear apart the mind. In order to survive these traumas, one must disassociate into alter personalities or die. Most died, but those that survived continued their life with alters that could be programmed like a computer to do superhuman feats. Originally, Project Talent had 377,000 test subjects. The project was financed by Department of Welfare, Health and Education, the National Institutes of Health, and the Department of Naval Research. These individuals were tracked using RFID technology and monitored at regular interviews throughout their life. I wonder if that's intervals, but it just says interviews. After a suitable candidate was found, usually a young child, he or she was placed into Project Monarch, closely monitored by Monarch Solutions, Ltd. Depending on their abilities and gifts, victims were inserted into various projects such as Project Montauk, which involved time travel experimentations, and MyLab operations. MILA-AB is an acronym for military abductions. These are coordinated covertly by a team of brainwashed special ops agents involving cloaked black triangular crafts and teleportation. The covert government would abduct alien contactees. I also believe they uncloak themselves so that they could have like false reports of sighting so that they can then just blame like off-world people, like, see, they're really bad, they're abducting people. Anyway, the covert government would abduct alien contactees using robotic greys, which are advanced nanotech robots created originally by the reptilians. These beings have no soul and are used as worker drones to perform all their dirty work. They remain cloaked in other dimensions, and unless you are really clairvoyant, you can't see them. If they want to activate a MyLab, they can play a song that's encoded with a wave. Alternatively, they can destroy them by turning on their auto-destruct mode. Some MyLab victims recall seeing a small box-like device with 3 knobs, which can be used to stun, kill, and vaporize victims. One MyLab claimed to have seen an amethyst crystal-like rod device, which is handed over to different alien handlers throughout the MyLab's life. Another MyLab claimed to see a white flashing light, which places them in a zombified state, where they are still awake but not aware of what's going on, occurring just before a MyLab falls into deep sleep. They are then brought to a facility and worked on. When they wake up, they may feel exhausted and do not remember any of their dreams. This is because they are not fully in their body, often clueless of the double life they are living. While in these underground facilities, they are subjected to various experimentations such as gene splicing technology, in which their DNA may be inserted or injected with different human, animal, or even alien DNA, some of which was recovered from bodies on crashed ET craft. Speed and strength could increase 20 times with jackal DNA. What? In the Tigris program, tiger DNA was injected, increasing remote viewing and clairvoyance capabilities. Kind of makes me wonder, what do they put in vaccines? Like, let's be real. Types of super soldiers. The following is a list of different types of super soldiers. Typically, they are defined by who makes them. This list is compiled from good to most advanced technology. Sacrificial lambs. These are your armed forces, Manchurian candidates, and sleepers. Number 2, super soldiers, created by the military from multiple mirror and parallel realities. They do not use clone bodies, but choose individuals who have enhanced psionic abilities. They may be given steroids or augmentation, etc. They are the very first and more advanced, enhanced type of intelligent being developed on Earth, sometimes with ET assistance. They would use them over and over on missions, and if they died, technologies would be applied to recover them, such as REGEN tank. Compare this to veterans in the armed forces or Manchurian candidates, who are usually left to be slaughtered. The ACIO has solid sources that super soldiers started to appear on Earth approximately about 6,000 years ago, probably through Montauk and time travel experiments from our timeline and other mirror realities. Planetary corporations would spend millions to billions of dollars per soldier. They are used by both good and bad sides. Number 3, ultra soldiers. Gens 1-10, so 1 through 10. Ultra soldiers were built under guidance of Fourth Reich Project Paperclip Nazis. Begun in September 1945, the original 21 test subjects and offspring were genetically modified into hybrids, crossbreeds, ET, and even animal DNA through the cloning process. They can even convert an animal alone and use that as a super soldier. The CIA, DARPA, DARPA, and private corporations have access to ultra soldiers. They are rather unstable and unreliable in their programming. They are known to rebel and not follow commands. Subjects can be augmented with wires, implant steroids, and or nano-pico femto injections. So NaNO-PICO-FEMTO- injections. They can also download consciousness between bodies using trip seat alterations. But there were many problems. They appear as normal as humans, but once they hit the switch, they stop what they are doing and become a mindless robot, unless they rebel. They use de-aging, and some cloning tech on these beings. Number 4, light soldiers. Light soldiers are made by the Fourth Reich. They are same as ultra soldiers, but they do not have the instability issues. Because of long-term scientific research of DNA and the psyche, they are from our reality and can do everything Lixoldaten can do. LACHTSOLDATEN can do. And we'll stop it there. Done to go hang. KU in a good chance. We meet again. Love you, mean it.